creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire.
Men, women, bones, and embers. Welcome to Burning Questions, the show where the questions are deeper than 6 feet under. Tonight, our guest is the undead, blood-sucking bone daddy himself, Chupalabras, or Easy for short. And I gotta tell you, saying your whole name was indeed not easy.
Well, that's why the abbreviation is EC then.
Yes, definitely. You of course made a post recently about how everyone has like been mispronouncing your name over and over again.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't mind it. I don't mind it. It's just fun to see it happen.
Well, I suppose that's just something that people just have to get used to, I suppose. Well, anyway, would you kindly tell us about yourself and who you are?
Who am I? Well, as you mentioned, my name is Chupalabras, of course. But it was a moniker I adopted recently. Before that, I was nameless, going only by El Chupalabras. That is to say, the word soccer. Because that's, in essence, who I am. A stalker for words. Love everything about the written and spoken languages. And I've been devoting
Okay.
myself to learn all about them.
Okay, I see. You just part of your history is that you were, how should I say, condemned to being a skull for a while, right?
That's right, that's right.
Would you kind of give
Before
us
I
a
had
short
this
rundown?
form,
Oh yeah, yes, please.
yes, of course. Before I had this form, I used to be just beast, a predator, a regular old chupacabra out there. However, eventually, I was hunted down and cursed to live inside my own skull. Anyway, eventually I got my revenge on the man who killed me. And that's why I now have a body. Because this body ain't mine. I'm taking over for a while. All of me, that's the mask, the skull. That's me. That's the real me.
Well, I suppose we're really lucky because having just being a skull would be very difficult for, well, making VTuber logos.
Oh, of course, of course. That's what I'm known for in the community. My logos. Yeah, let me tell you, lacking hands can be quite difficult to deal with. Operating a computer, a drawing tablet, or even a quill, ink, can be really tough without having a pen that used to manipulate them. But you make do. You make do.
Exactly.
Let me tell you, having hands though, much easier. Would recommend 10 out of 10.
Definitely. I lost my arm and I have a mechanical one, and it was a pain not having a second arm for a while. And just that's what having one arm. Imagine those people with, well, a skull, just a head.
Exactly.
How long were you trapped as a skull, or how long do you reckon that you were trapped as a skull?
I really cannot answer that question truthfully because I was locked in a storage room. I read all of the books, poems, and grimoires that were available to me, but I had no way of knowing what time was it outside. The days passed. I only had an hourglass. Maybe if the necromancer hadn't been petrified, I could have guessed based on how long it took for its corpse to decompose. But I really had no way at all of knowing how long I was trapped in there, how long I was a skull. But after a while, being granted this new body, after being able to explore the castle, I discovered that the world I lived in was no more. Technology had advanced so much. Have you heard of this thing called the computer?
Ah, yes,
So
definitely.
weird. they trap thunder inside of stones and make them do numbers. That's so weird.
I suppose that's one way of interpreting it. I have seen like a lot weirder tech. I've seen some people like power devices with using their blood, converting that into energy, which is hella weird. But I suppose whatever powers your phone.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Well, moving on, we should move on to the next question, which is, do you ever get the urge to one day become a beast again? Like when you weren't feeling self-aware? Like, do you ever want to go back to a time that's more primal in a sense?
Are you asking me if I'm a furry or what?
Not
I would
necessarily.
say yes. Yes. I used to be much simpler as a predator. But I could change introspection, real consciousness, having an inner dialogue with just relying on pure instinct. It was nice. It was, comfortable. But having experienced this life now, life of a sentient being, I don't know if I can go back. But would I be more comfortable in a body that resembled the one I used to have while I was alive? Maybe.
Yeah, definitely. That is a similar, well, not really. It's a bit of an issue as I've seen with doing these interviews. There are some people who feel different when they're not themselves. But some people do flourish in a state where they aren't themselves, and I suppose that just changes per person. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree. After all, everyone has been shaped by their own life experiences, by the different hits that they have taken, the different gifts that they have received. And sometimes, whether you get isekai'd or you actually change your body, or you just grow as a person, sometimes looking back into the past can be fine, can be fun, it can be nostalgic or melancholic too. But there's nothing to do. You cannot go back there. You absolutely can't.
Yes, that is true. There are just some there's just some things that you cannot get anymore, as how some people like to put it, they only exist in memories now at that point.
Precisely.
But the one thing that we can take from the past is, of course, the lessons we get from them, which is the reason why how a lot of people like to state when discussing history, of course, is the reason we learn history as to not repeat it. But
Precisely.
but admittedly, there is just some times wherein things happen that, even though it's like a very bad, it's not a great idea to do, people still do it. But I suppose that's
Yes,
just
of course.
the nature of people, right?
Well, yeah. I have always thought that person can be smart, but people are dumb.
Yeah, definitely. There has been like a lot of cases I've seen wherein people people agree on one thing, even though that one thing is a bit dumb. How one person managed to convince 5 people he was right, and those 5 people convinces one smart person that he was right. Oh, and that one person believed that they were right only because a majority.
Of course, it's really important to study your logical fallacies so you don't fall into them. You don't get tricked by them.
Definitely. There has been like I admittedly there has been like some things which I fell for, other things which I definitely needed to do research on, and some things which I did find out and like thought of by myself, which is a reason why I am more, which admittedly I which strange sorry, it's hard to word this, but strangely enough, I think I am more philosophical than some of my peers growing up because of the way that I viewed things. I in my culture, being a philosopher is treated differently. It's treated more as an, not quite as an insult, but something that is like taken like more like a lot lightly than it probably should be.
Of course. Philosophers, after all, concern themselves with things that cannot be grasped in real life. They cannot be health. They aren't solid things you can manipulate. They concern themselves with matters of truth, basically.
Yeah.
And that can be a difficult to grasp. Like a Platonic Ideal. What's that? Well, it's everything that something is and nothing that something isn't. What does that mean? Well, it means that out there is a concept of chair, for example, that is universal to everything that is a chair, but isn't. But it's universal to nothing that isn't a chair. But people would say, and how does that help me IRL? How could that actually do something? How does that make me money? Or how does that get me a girlfriend? I don't know. Things like that.
Yeah, it's like a matter of how people think things. And there's actually this one video I saw, which admittedly kind of like a bit like broke my heart because I kind of like looked up to this person, but it was this one scientist who was discussing, he's a very well-known scientist, right? He's also an entertainer, but then he discussed about how scientists and philosophers cannot get along because philosophers deal with like the thoughts of humans, and that what they're doing is pointless. And when I heard that, I kind of just got brokenhearted, and I don't like this guy anymore.
That sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson, to be honest.
Yep, that's him.
Yeah, that sounded like Neil Tyson immediately.
Yeah.
I
looked up this guy after a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I think we all did. We all did at some point, but then we realized you're just an asshole, right? You're like a really smart asshole. Like you were the guy that the Big Bang Theory was warning us about. You are the real life Sheldon.
Oof. That's true though. but yeah, but going back to like what you said earlier, the concept of the chair.
Yes.
What I thought of is that whatever you sit on technically is a seat, but doesn't mean it's a chair.
Exactly.
Most people don't think about things like this, and that annoys me a bit. Like when somebody says, "Don't sit there. It's not a seat. It's not a chair." Well, technically, anything you sit on is a chair.
It could be.
Or the opposite, don't sit on that. That's a table. Well, if I put something on something, doesn't make it a table. What allow? Like it's just that what is the purpose of something? That's a thing that always pops up in existential philosophy. Like I suppose like its purpose.
Yes, that's a concept that we call prescriptivism versus descriptivism.
Yeah.
And, and of course, that means that sometimes the language, the words that we use, change the way we view the world.
Yes, exactly. There's just some terms that we use every day that we don't realize has a lot of how should I say, not really weight to it, but something like on how it can mean several things to several people. Not
Of
not just in the language barrier, of course, but also like how it is used in a how it's used in a common in a common way, of course.
I understand that, yes. After all, and sorry for getting a little bit too political here, but a lot of people refuse to accept that gender and sex are different things.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
Them, they have always been synonyms. They don't understand the nuance in the terms.
Yeah. Like the actual the biological processes of the body versus the way someone thinks and how they view themselves specifically. Those things are different.
Precisely.
But a lot of
That's
people
right.
like to combine them. That's okay, I just want to like preface like everything that, well, postface I suppose now, that we accept all people, but we're just stating facts right now. We're stating
Yes.
like scientific facts that people just misinterpreting it, sadly. But
Yes, of course.
the way that some people view this is just misguided. They're not, they need to be taught something, but how people react to being guided is a whole different issue, of course.
People don't like being wrong. That's a fault of the educational system everywhere. It's
Oh,
not limited
definitely.
to the US or to Mexico or to whatever. This is just how it is. People have had bad teachers through their lives. Teachers that ridicule them for being wrong or for being ignorant.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong about being wrong. There's nothing wrong about not knowing things. There is something wrong, really, really wrong, about making fun of a person for not knowing things,
Yeah, definitely.
for getting something wrong. And that's a trauma that stays with people. I was hurt before when when I didn't know the answer to a question, so now I'm just going to pretend I'm right all the time.
Oh yeah, there's that there is really just an underlying like like what you said, trauma that affects so many people and they don't even know it, especially regarding like education.
Precisely.
There's this one thing I actually do want, I just recall from the conversation. Like, are you aware of that? I forgot the name of the chef, but it's a very famous chef in the UK.
Gordon Ramsay?
Not Gordon Ramsay, the other guy. It's always Gordon Ramsay
Jamie
whenever you
Oliver?
say UK. Yes, Jamie Oliver. He went to a school and he wanted to like showcase like how unhealthy the kids were eating, right?
Oh yeah, I love
Are you
that
aware of
story.
this?
Yeah.
Yes. Just for the viewers, Jamie Oliver went to a school and he wanted to show the nutrition that the kids were being fed, and none of them were eating healthy. They were eating like constantly fried food or constantly like oily baked food and food that's full of sugar. And what he did was he tried his best to like explain to the parents that they are not wrong. They're not bad parents, that they are just misguided because they weren't taught properly. Yet these parents rebelled and broke into the school to give their kids the lunches they wanted, not the lunches they needed, which was McDonald's, of course. They wanted McDonald's because, let's be honest, kids want McDonald's. I want McDonald's. I ate McDonald's on stream like yesterday. But McDonald's tastes great. But the thing is, it's not healthy, and these kids don't know this. I know this, but that's my whole issue. But
Exactly.
yeah, those kids don't know them better. The parents were taught poorly, and that's education system's issue. But now they have a way of changing. We already have Jamie Oliver, who is a professional chef, of course, who is trying to teach them what is correct, yet they believe, no, my way of thinking is correct, and that's it.
It's just that people take being wrong as a personal attack when it isn't. Absolutely isn't. If you go your whole life thinking that 2 plus 2 is 3, then you are wrong. No matter how much you believe that in your heart, you are wrong.
Yes.
And who knows? Maybe science one day discovers that 2 plus 2 is actually 3, and you were right all along. But that's the thing. We have to be able to change our minds, what things actually mean, to what they represent, to what they describe. Because what was true 50 years ago, what was accepted 50 years ago, maybe it's not so nowadays.
Yeah, that's a thing with some education the education system specifically, which is a lot of them don't update like as recently as you think. The only ones the only ones that do update are when the young teachers like come in and they want to like showcase new ways of doing things, which sadly isn't a lot, because there's a lot of underlying reasons to why a lot of people don't want to be teachers, or why a lot of people don't want to be teachers of a certain subject, even though that they are more updated with new things. We definitely saw it recently with lot of older teachers who weren't tech savvy, of course, but also
Yes.
with the education that they're giving out. Okay, this is a bit strange, but I do recall that there was this one report that came out in the Department of Education in the Philippines, wherein the correct answer for the question, what is the sign of a dangerous person, in a multiple choice question, and the correct answer was tattoos.
Really?
This was taken
That's
out
strange.
last year.
Last year.
Not several years ago. It was taken out and discovered last year. That, and only a couple years before that, was describing a certain race of people and saying that that race of people had a description on them. And one of the answers was a tail.
Tail.
Yeah, it was. It was
Damn
not
it.
pretty. Yeah, that was not a pretty day for them. That was horrible.
Yeah, of course.
It took them this long to update their stuff, and it's not even fully updated. We're only discovering these things now.
Well, at least you're finding out about them.
At least now they are. But yeah, but sadly,
Yeah.
that's just the state of like people's unwillingness to change in terms of the education they were given or retained.
That actually reminds me of something else. I speak English as a second language.
Yeah.
I have done so for a long time. I consider my level to be that of a native speaker, if not better, if I do say so myself. But in one of the many certification tests that I have taken, I remember one question that was I don't remember if it was a grammar question or if it was an inference question. The point of the question was that it said something along the lines of John wants to join the military. Why do you think that is?
Oh no.
And yes.
Okay.
And the only answer was grammatically correct, was logical, and that fit in the context was because it's an honor to serve the U.S. Army. That was the only question the only answer that was grammatically correct or logical.
Well, that's
Because
patriotic
it's
as
an
fuck.
honor to serve. Because it's an honor to serve the U.S. Army. Other answers were slightly wrong.
Okay, I guess that's one way of doing it. It's one way of like instilling that patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my lord.
I'm not a
Well-
conspiracy theorist, but that thing didn't sit right with me.
I don't think that's conspiracy at that point. That's just blatant. Okay. Well, I think we've stayed on one question too long. We should move on to the next one.
Yeah, we should.
So the next question is, since your transition to, well, your current body right now, which is more humanoid compared to your old one, I'm assuming, of course, have you drunk the blood of anything since you've reformed?
No, not yet. Not yet. I have been sustaining myself over ink. Not drinking it, of course, just channeling its power. I mean, do I enjoy the taste of blood? Well, I used to. I don't know how this body would react to it.
That's fair.
I have drunk wine, I have drunk water, I have drunk beer and different kinds of juices, but again, no, it hasn't actually crossed my mind right now.
Fair enough. Because this actually is a bit of an interesting topic to me, because I did look into this a bit earlier, recently, I mean, which is there's actually a surprising amount of dishes that the Terrans make, wherein it incorporates the blood of something.
Oh, of course.
I just want to like prefaces. I don't think that this culture's choices are disgusting. It doesn't sit well with me. But I do not know why they would want to make some blood sweet. That's just something I don't understand.
Blood sweet.
Yes, they in the UK they have a dessert that uses blood as a syrup. They process the blood, then they turn it into a syrup. I heard this and I didn't understand why.
You remember the name of that dessert?
I think it's blood pudding, but I don't think it's quite. It uses a similar process to blood pudding, but then they like stop halfway and they place it on ice cream, if I recall.
I don't know if that's true, because I mean, black pudding is not sweet; it's savory. Blood pudding, I have never heard of that.
I think I need to look it up again, but from what I saw, which is a couple videos, is that they turned it into a dessert, and I didn't understand that. If it was like a blood sausage, that makes sense to me. But what I wanted to bring up was there is a dish that I have tasted before called dinuguan, which is
yes.
Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Oh yes. To the viewers, it is basically chopped pork with vegetables in the sauce, and the sauce is just pork blood. It sounds gory, but is delicious.
Yes, I have tried it and I liked it a lot.
Ah, okay. Before or after your transformation?
Yeah, before, of course, before.
Well, I suppose there are like some people leaves their food out for some leaves their food out. But yeah, there's just a lot of just thinking about it just kind of like interests me, because, well, I know you're not a vampire and you don't need to drink blood, but potentially vampires could just substitute that with eating a lot of these dishes.
It's funny that you mention it, because I consider eating blood and drinking blood to be separate things.
That is true, though.
I mean,
that is very true.
They are. When you mention black pudding and blood sausages, I have eaten blood sausage relatively recently.
Oh,
That's
perfect then.
it's something that we can find readily available in Mexico in many places. Call it
Ah,
call it moronga here. Some
ronga.
places call it yes, we call it so some places call it morcilla. It's the Spanish name from Spain.
Okay, I see. Well, hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on some in the future. Definitely, and to the international viewers, you can of course like just import it somehow. Like on, there's a lot of online sellers nowadays though. So hopefully we can get their hands on some.
Yes.
But a counter to that, of course, also like what we discussed earlier was, what if the ones who cook this were actually just vampires who like want to like satiate the thirst with something else and realize it's better to cook it than to drink it like straight?
Who knows? Who knows how vampirism actually works?
That is true. I am friends with a vampire. I should ask her that.
You should. Otherwise, we're just spreading misinformation here.
Oh, that's true. She's gonna be pissed at me when she watches this. But anyway, moving on to the next question.
Yes.
Earlier you described that you told me that when you weren't self-aware yet, you never attacked a human, and doing so would probably give you some kind of sentience. But how sure are you that there wasn't another El Chupacabra out there that might have attacked a human, or probably like how should I say, like gain sentience through some similar means? And
I cannot be sure of that. I
Okay,
just can't.
That's fair. Have you met another person of your species recently?
I actually have.
Oh.
Recently, I found out that a feral chupacabra actually gained sentience. But I don't know the means in which he did. Maybe he was born with it. Maybe he was blessed with it, or as you said, maybe he attacked a human. Yes, my good friend Cabracan is a chupacabra, and he remains feral. But, of course, full sentience, completely self-aware.
Actually, that is interesting though. But there have been like stranger means of how people like gain their abilities. I've seen some who were born with it, of course. Some people who have trained their lives for it.
Sorry?
I've seen like people gain like certain abilities, and creatures gain certain abilities through different means. Stranger than the next, of course. I've seen the weirdest things, including somebody literally wishing upon a star and somehow that getting granted. I've seen people who were born just literally just born different.
Of course.
But we can never like fully know on how like some of these strange things happen in this world. This world just has the weirdest creatures, let's be honest.
I mean, I gained my sentience by stealing it from the man who killed me, so who knows? Things happen.
Definitely. Yeah. Not to mention also how like a lot of VTubers out there are basically world-ending beings. So
Yes, of course.
Things gets weirder. Things gets weirder and weirder.
We should be thankful that the world enders and omega level cataclysms made into flesh decide to just play video games instead of ending all of reality. We should be thankful for that.
Exactly. I'm friends with some of them actually, but you know, probably some of them are thinking about it, some of them are in the process of doing it. We can never know.
Of course. I do have friends who are cataclysms too.
Oh, that's probably something that people can't say like years ago. I'm friends with something that can destroy the world.
Exactly.
Well, unless you're like a president of a nuclear-powered country, of course.
Oh, well, true. I mean, we're all 5 degrees away from actually getting to know person that has a finger on the nuclear button, apparently.
Yep.
5 degrees of separation.
I know this guy who's the best friend of the president. And he's
True,
ready to
true.
push the button. Well, anyway, going back to the relative questions.
Mhm.
Considering, as you stated before, when the reason you escaped being a skull was you managed to learn a certain spell to turn you back to give you a body. I mean, but the person who helped you do this was a lamb.
That's
Did you
right.
ever
That's right.
felt thirsty when you first met them?
Oh, by that point, I had forgone all of my blood-sucking ways. I had been sustaining myself on ink for so long. Who knows how long, but long enough, so that the thought never crossed my mind. Besides, maybe I shouldn't say this, but though this lamb was really sweet, kind, and innocent, like a lamb should be,
Mhm.
they didn't seem to be 100% lamb.
Okay, that's fair. There are a lot of mm, beast person creatures I've seen like recently. Well, I suppose like in the past years I've been researching on similar topics. I actually just came up with a recent episode of Waifu's Weekly, shameless plug of course,
Mhm.
wherein we discuss beastmen, or colloquially known as furries, and how they tie into like cultures, their own culture of course, and how they tie in with human culture and such. But what I learned from that was rather interesting, because there are certain qualities that they can possess and cannot possess because of certain biological reasons. But seeing this was just a bit eye-opening, especially.
Of course, I understand that. I completely understand that.
Then again, there are also some, how should I say, creatures who are literally not of this world, but that they aren't. It's really hard to like point out certain qualities when they're not like from Terra, I suppose.
Yes, of course. I mean, world I came from didn't have lambs with fangs, yet the one who helped me had fangs, so who knows what's going on there.
I did not know that. That is terrifying.
Yes.
Are you sure this wasn't the literal interpretation of wolf in sheep's clothing?
Who knows? Who knows what that was?
Yeah, I suppose that's for them to know and for us to probably find out eventually.
Hmm?
Anyway, moving on. Since you were like stuck as a skull for a really, really long time, just absorbing the knowledge in the nearby areas, like the ink that you were saying earlier, what kind of magic did you learn to perform? I mean, besides the one that helped you become humanoid, of course.
All kinds. I can do summonings. I can do some alchemy. Of course, I can transmutate different elements into other ones, rather by means of magic or by means of alchemy and chemistry. I do know how to perform runes and make them do my bidding by pouring blood into them. I have been doing some experiments with actually trying to get a rune to react to ink, since it helped me so much. And I have also been known to conjure different portals into existence by walking through the Hall of Possibility. That's how I named the castle after I took over, the Hall of Possibility.
Oh, okay.
And I have been meaning to learn the language of the imps that inhabit that castle, because it seems to be inherently magical and can will things into existence, apparently. So yeah, all kinds of magic, and of course, I suppose necromancy as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I suppose when you were killed by a necromancer in a necromancer's home base, at least one of the books has to be about necromancy.
Yes, of course, of course. Not to mention all of the knowledge that the necromancer himself acquired. Did absorb some
Okay.
of that too. I mean,
Okay, interesting.
part of his soul is what gave me my sentience.
And you also managed to somewhat absorb like his essence, essentially, right?
That's right, that's right. So who knows? Maybe if I had killed a farmer back when I was a chupacabra, I wouldn't have been this person that I am today. Knows how much of me is that predator, and how much of me is the man who killed me. I am who I am.
Fair enough, fair enough. That actually leads to a very important philosophical question that I've seen like brought up lots of times, which is, are you your memories? Because memories is definitely an important component in a being, but a person's being can of course change over time, and
Yes.
the way that person thinks changes. So technically, wouldn't you also just be that necromancer, like you as a person, but somebody who makes different choices? I mean,
Of course, of course. I cannot let myself think that I am the person who killed me. I have to be better. You just have to.
okay, that's fair. There is like some things that we just develop over time throughout the memories and throughout our existences that allows us to how should I say this, be the people we are, like from
Mhm.
well, of course, like who we are generally, but also who the person we were, let's say 10 years ago. The person 10 years ago and the person right now in this body is of course two completely different people. We've
Mhm.
learned and we've developed different things that allows us to function differently, like just
Precisely.
by existing.
Not remembering, not learning from your own experience. That's actually just that's having arrested development.
Yeah, definitely. So I find it strange, like when somebody says, like for example, that one of the common like reasons why this is being discussed is of course clones. Like if you have a clone and that person talks to you, are you that clone or is that person you? And to the rebuttal to that is of course no, that clone does have your memories, will make the same decisions, but that clone is its own being, and you're your own separate thing. It's
But
not
how
just,
would you know which one you are?
oh yeah, that is true. Like the way you, because the one rebuttal to that statement, the one rebuttal to that statement is your perspective, because like the way that it's like that one image of the letter A in one side, but then on the other side it's letter B of like
Mm.
a cube. It's like that. It's like what person the person's this person observes A, while this person observes B. If they continue to observe this, they will become two different people, because the way they observe a certain thing does change and can change them. Okay,
I agree. I absolutely agree.
this is a very very stupid like way of describing it, but have you seen American Dad, the cartoon?
Sure. I am familiar with American Death.
There was an episode when their son Steve got a clone of himself, one to be raised by the
Mhm.
mother and one to be raised by the father.
Okay.
So, like using that perspective, that's at that point wherein the Steve got divided was basically the divergence of the people, from my perspective at least. How how the experiences at that point changes as one gets taught by the mother and one gets taught by the father. They become two separate beings at that point, despite still retain the memories. Because this is a topic that I forgot who discussed it. I forgot the philosopher discussed it, but things evolve, as we have said earlier, and a person changes. So that just mimics of what happens, and as such, those are two different beings. Sorry if I'm rambling too much.
Of course. No, it's fine. It's fine. I mean, after all, that's it's a question that we might never get an answer to, as much as we try. It's a question that only exists in the realm of philosophy.
That's true.
It's cool to discuss.
I suppose that's just like what makes philosophy unique towards other how should I say this, disciplines. How there is no true answer to this. It's literally just someone's perspective.
Precisely.
Well, regardless, we should move on to the next topic, which is what did you feel? What did it feel when you were nothing but instinct? Basically, I'm asking like, how did you feel when you were still primal? In a lot of medias, they describe it as losing all reason. In others, they say it's fulfilling the needs your body has. What do you think is the closest way to describe how you felt when you were just not sentient, essentially?
Well, some people say computers are purely logical, so they act only on and outputs.
Mhm.
I would say being primal is similar. The thing that drives us is not logic. I would say that main driving force, being primal, is desire. So if you want to eat, you try to find a way to satisfy that desire. Is your input. Your out to go on a hunt. If you want to sleep, you try to find shelter. Again, input and output. If you want to just stare at the moon for whatever reason, that's what you do. Just wake up and look into the sky. So while it's not logical, in the sense of the word that humans have assigned to it, the fact that you act only on intelligence and rational decisions, is logical the way that an input will give you an output.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So basically, what you're saying is, I do what I want.
I do what I can do, not what I
True,
want.
True. I suppose that makes sense. There are some beings that just do, well, what you say, what you want, like just by existing.
Exactly.
Well, moving on to the next question is, I have to ask, those chambers where you work and where you live, essentially, where did you get a setup to do what you do online? Because I know that is the old necromancer's place. Did you get a computer from a local merchant, or was it conjuration or perhaps teleportation magic?
Well, there are two ways which I would describe I acquired a computer. First one would be that the castle itself provided one to me. Don't know exactly how the Hall of Possibility works, but it has an endless hallway with an endless amount of doors. If you just listen to your soul, heart, it will tell you when to stop walking. And when you stop walking, you have a choice to make. You can open the door on the left or the door on the right. And one of those doors will have exactly what you need. And the other door will provide you the means to get what you need. So, basically speaking, you just have to open the right door. And did I open the right door? I will never be able to know. I did get a computer. I have gotten anything I wanted. Just either opening left door or the right door whenever my heart told me to stop.
Okay, I see. So it was just purely out of a feeling, then, right? A sense of something going right, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, I understand that. That seems like a very interesting hallway, though. Have you what are some strange things you probably like have seen from that hallway?
Of course, the imps that live in the castle. I have been able to visit many different worlds and meet many interesting people. And doors themselves can always close after you. So you have to only take a peek, buy them in, plan a route, so you can always meet them again. Those doors, you can always find knowledge that you were not meant to have. You can find, of course, things that you were not meant to see. At the end of the day, you gotta learn from those experiences. You gotta take the good with the bad. You have to take the bad that comes up with the good that comes with the bad.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So, so potentially it could also, let's say, harbor something massively dangerous.
Of course. As far
Okay,
as I know, the castle will not attack its master.
okay.
I feel like I have earned that title. Who knows? Maybe I haven't.
I suppose that's for the castle to judge. But then
Exactly.
that doesn't that mean that you could potentially just go wherever? Like wherever, I mean,
Yes.
like in any universe, you could just use that castle to bring you somewhere.
Yes, I can do that. It was a tome inside of the library, told of a way to travel between dimensions. But I don't know how to apply it to the castle itself. It's meant to be used with musical instruments. Maybe if I hum a tune while I'm walking through the hallway.
I suppose this is like it's what I recall to be your starting soon screen, right?
Yes, exactly. Infinite hallway.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That considering like how you interact with a lot of other VTubers that we have online, of course. I suppose that hallway would make it a lot easier to do.
Exactly. As long as you open the correct door, of course.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sometimes the wrong door is the right door, if you know what I mean.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean. There are a lot of, how should I say this, possibilities when it comes to like an endless hallway.
Hmm.
Um, when I was younger, I had this theory that I like to call the theory of everything, or the I mean no the theory. I called it that in the beginning, but it's basically how every possibility is literally infinite, because a universe can have a literal infinite number of possibilities that would change each variable. There's literally too many variables that we can account for. And just imagining
Hmm.
one of those variable changes branches out to its own universe type of thing.
Of course, of course. This morning I had bread and butter for breakfast. What if I had decided to actually make a sandwich?
So exactly. Like even then, like, what kind of sandwich are we talking about here? Ham and egg, grilled
Hmm.
cheese. Those are
Yes,
there's like
exactly.
there's so many kinds of sandwiches, and that's a whole nother variable.
If I had forgone having breakfast at all.
Exactly. There's just the infinity is just a concept that a lot of that people just have a hard time grasping, just of the sheer quantity of what it is.
Exactly,
It's
exactly.
not just endless, it is infinite, the
The,
things that it could account for.
the easiest way I have been able to explain this is that there is an infinite number of numbers between 1 and 2, and there is an infinite number of numbers between 1 and 3.
Oh yeah,
But
okay.
there is a larger number of infinite numbers between 1 and 3 than there is between 1 and 2.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Hmm?
I
The
think
larger
I've
infinity.
Yeah, it's a large infinity, despite both being infinity. There is, yeah, there's just way too many variables, and even then, there's just too much things that happen. One thing I used to like help describe it was, I put down a pen on a table. What angle did I did it at? Did I put it down facing front, like where the tip is like facing away from me? Is it facing 1 degree to the left away from me, 1 degree to the right, 2 degrees to the left, 2 degrees to the right, 2.5 degrees to the right? And yeah, there's just, and that's the angle of how I place it. I still didn't talk about of where I place on the table. Just that theory combined with your Hall of Infinity is really like philosophically very interesting. Like, each door can lead to literally anywhere.
Precisely.
Now, now, theoretically, of course, can this take you to like Fort Knox?
I can neither confirm or nor deny that's where I have gotten funding for my projects.
They won't notice a few gold bars missing, right?
They don't. They wouldn't. They wouldn't, I should say.
EC confirmed a thief. Question mark.
Oh no, no. Not a thief if you steal from a thief.
Mm.
It's
Ooh,
fires.
we're getting political now. but yeah, let's say that you woke up one morning groggy from like doing a bunch of research, and you decide, I want a coffee in this one cafe in France. Goes in the hallway, takes a couple steps, takes the door on the left. Oh, you're there.
Yes.
Then again, do the exact same thing, but take the one on the right. It's a ticket to France. Fuck that.
Exactly, exactly. It's either the means or the place.
The means are the place. Now, that could also mean that you you have a thermonuclear warhead to get your funding from.
Mm.
Ransom this entire like U.S. state.
Exactly. We will hold the world hostage for $1 million.
1 million bajillion. Yeah, I watched Austin Powers too.
Of course. Who hasn't? Who hasn't?
Who hasn't? Viewers, please watch Austin Powers. It's great. It's so good. Please watch it. They don't make movies like they used to, sadly.
Oh, no, they don't. They can't.
Fun enough, I actually made a video on that very topic. So, another shameless plug, of course. But yes, there's the theory of infinity is such an interesting concept to me, and it should be to a lot of people. But I suppose it just can't really apply to like certain people, huh?
Yes, of course. Our brains were not designed to grasp infinity. Even if we pretend to comprehend it, we can't. We can't.
We only like get a fraction of what it means.
Exactly.
Then again, I did get an existential crisis like way younger than I should have.
Oh, you too, huh?
Yeah,
Hey.
you too. First time. But yeah, it's just a very useful tool, like thinking about how we think about things, basically. Speaking, of course. Anyway, let's move on to the next question, which is: with the knowledge and libraries of the former necromancer at your disposal, have you become the new local necromancer? Like, have you continued some of the stuff he's been working on, or performed, or whatever?
Wouldn't say so. In Sare Letrange, necromancer who killed me, was not a good person. So I have no desire of continuing his legacy. Rather, have just looked at his notes and see all of the evil that he has committed in the name of acquiring mortality, becoming a lich, and just tried to have you tried to right the wrongs that he has committed, slowly but surely, because people don't trust necromancers easily. People don't know you have any ulterior motives.
What's up with these dang necromancers trying to achieve immortality? You are the second guest I know who fought a necromancer who was an a-hole.
Exactly.
And again, you are the first necromancer here also, so to each your own. What have you...
that magic is a tool. Necromancy is a tool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And the tool is not inherently evil. It's just the use that you give it to.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
some
definitely.
people say, "Oh, healing is the best school of magic. It's so pure and wholesome." But what if a healer just kept you alive while they tortured you? If they made your limbs grow as they ripped them apart each time?
True.
Same thing. Necromancy is inherently evil. Necromancy raises the dead and deals with matters not meant for humans. But what if necromancy was used to keep death away? What if necromancy was used to stave off the death of a person until he could fulfill his goals? If it could be used to revive a species of animal or plant that has been extinct for several years?
Okay. That's a very interesting way of putting it, actually. Huh. I suppose it makes sense because the difference between a person learning how to heal someone and a person learning how to, let's say, create a world-ending virus is very slim. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
This person's sick. Okay, he is sick. How do I cure him? That's one way of saying it, but there's also another way of saying, how do I make him more sick and how do I make him be able to make other people sick? That's part of the same school, which the same how to say this, study, I mean.
Of course.
It's that one very small divide, but I suppose that really is just up to the person, and it's nice and welcoming to know that you're a necromancer who treats it more as a tool rather than a thing that defines you, from what I understand, at least.
Precisely. I believe it was Paracelsus said, all things are poison and nothing is poison. Only the doses makes it a poison.
Oh yeah, that's true. I see what you mean by that statement. It really is just a matter of who is the person wielding this poison, huh?
Exactly.
How to this? I think, but also a possible issue with this wielder of poison is the knowledge of the poison itself, because there is some people who thinks that just because this manner of thinking can create poison means that we shouldn't discuss at all.
Of course.
I see where they're coming from. It's just that I don't agree with it.
Knowledge is power.
Yes, exactly. Knowledge is power, but there are some people who just want to remove certain knowledges from the world just because they can be used for evil. But that doesn't mean they can be used for evil.
Hmm? I mean, when we look at Chernobyl, for example, that really made people think that nuclear power is dangerous.
Yeah.
But isn't. Nuclear power is just a way to make energy. Chernobyl was a disaster waiting to happen. And was a tragedy.
Of course.
Of course. But shouldn't let that discourage us actually moving onward in the future.
Definitely. There to add to that was, of course, nuclear weapons. When somebody says that when a country says that they need uranium, everyone immediately goes straight to nuclear weapons. This nuclear power can only be used for evil. But they fail to see that it's a lot cleaner than how they currently are using things.
Yes, of course. Coal plants release more radiation to the environment than nuclear plants. People are scared of radiation. So shouldn't we be scared of coal?
Yeah, I see what you mean by that. It's just how people use something and how that can be how people also wish to suppress things that are very how should I say this? They try to suppress knowledge, is what I mean to say.
Yes.
I've seen people think that certain books should be banned just because how it's associated with. What it is associated with. One of my things that comes to my mind is the book of sorry, his name escapes me right now. Is Friedrich Nietzsche, his theory of the Übermensch.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, Nietzsche, of course, his work was corrupted after his death by his sister to serve as Nazi propaganda.
Exactly.
But what he's talking about is not that there is a master race of people. No. He's talking about is that we as humans should become our own masters,
Yeah.
not become masters of other humans, but masters of our own destiny. Not to rely on morality systems that have been outdated, like religion. That's what he means when he says that God is death. What
And we have
remains
killed
death,
him. Yeah.
we have murdered him. Yes, exactly.
This is a lot of people I've met knows I admire the way he explains the Ubermensch, because and also there are some people that has twisted his words in a slightly different way, but not quite in the same way. It's always moving forward, basically. Always do what you can to make yourself better. Even if you don't succeed, you still tried, and that's what makes you an Ubermensch.
Exactly.
There are
It's
some
from the worms.
there are some people who kind of misinterpreted it, saying that the Ubermensch, well, one, of course, the Nazis, but also how the Ubermensch is a person that has achieved everything. That's not true. It's a
No.
yeah. I I've seen it like a couple times online. It's a bit shocking how often I see it, but yes, it's how a person should proceed, push themselves forward. And funny enough, that's how a lot of people are doing right now with, okay, this is a very weird ass connection, but it's how some VTubers have done it. I know there's a super weird connection, but don't worry, this makes sense to me at least. How VTubers perceive the Ubermensch, which is, a lot of us don't have money, let's be honest.
Sure.
A lot of us are broke. So
Oh yeah.
what VTubers have done is, I cannot afford a person to edit my VODs. I cannot afford a person to draw my backgrounds. I cannot afford a person to create my model. So what do? I do it myself.
Nicely.
This person, even though that their work isn't great, they still gain the knowledge and progress themselves forward. If that's not an Ubermensch, well, you're wrong. That's exactly what Ubermensch means. Even if they don't succeed like fully, they are still moving forward, and I think that deserves people's respects.
I agree. I mean, I started making real money, if I can call it that, after becoming a VTuber. And the way that I did it is not because my streams were getting thousands of viewers, making thousands of dollars of donations. No. Because I found something I was good at. It was, of course, making the logos, making the overlays, making the backdrops. And that's something I did because I couldn't afford someone else to do them. But as people noticed my work, they started requesting it. They started commissioning me. And I was happy to oblige. Of course, eventually that meant I didn't have to use the model I had done myself. Could get Parsley to make a model for me. Now I have multiple models in the works. I mean, am I rich now? No, of course not. The money I get from VTubing, of course, it goes to paying my bills and then to improve myself, the VTuber.
Yeah, exactly. We did what we could with what we had, and now we are progressing. We did what we can to show off our business. By the way, where can they reach you if they are interested in a VTuber model? Of course, I mean, a VTuber logo.
I did make my own model. I'm not confident enough to make a model for someone else. Not right now. Yeah, Twitter. Twitter is my main way to contact me. If you looking for someone to design the graphics for your stream, whether it's overlays, logos, static alerts. I do some animations, but not many. You can go to twitter.com/elchupalabras. That's ELCHUPALABRAS.
Okay, so to all the viewers, the link is of course in the chat if you want to go check that out. But
Thank you, I appreciate that.
no problem. But yeah, that's just what a lot of VTubers do. Of course, this isn't to say that the VTubers who pay their way to get like really good models aren't Ubermensch in their own right, because they definitely have the reason why they can afford this is they definitely learn skills that are valuable to people, and they use that to gain money, and they use that to, of course, afford to pay other people for doing things. So they
Yes.
are Ubermensch.
Yes, of
they are
course.
Ubermensch in a different way.
If there is a VTuber out there, it's a trust fund baby that has paid it their way to have the best model, the best logo, the best overlays. Maybe that person exists.
Yes.
Maybe that person cannot be. Who's to say? Who's to say this isn't their way to try to actually surpass themselves and overcome whatever they have in their heads. Even those big VTubers that belong to agencies like Hololive or Negisanji, they have to apply to work there. They have to continuously try to improve themselves to become exactly what those agencies were looking for. Yeah, afterwards they were provided with a logo, an overlay, a model, a platform. But they didn't come from nowhere. They weren't conjured out of thin air. They deserve it.
Yes, they
They're
definitely
entertainers.
prove
They are
themselves.
professionals. Exactly.
I suppose that whole side of things just ends up like clouding people's judgments when jealousy is in the way, I suppose, or envy. I mean, I suppose those both work.
Both.
I suppose that's just something that small VTubers such as you and myself, of course, just have to realize about these things, because there is people online anyway, generally speaking, who don't like somebody just because of their success, because they don't understand that work does have to be like applied to that, and they did like work their way up to becoming those kinds of people. One of the people I do really admire, who I really keep like using as example, is Iron Mouse.
Of course. I mean, who can look at Iron Mouse and not think that she has put all of the world and even more?
She is really an inspiration for Uberman. She learned the skill of VTubing way before like any of us, and she developed a way of being entertaining in her own way and not copying from other people. She is
Exactly.
she is an OG in a way of VTubing, and her rise is well deserved. And that's why people watch her, because she is not only entertaining to watch, she learned to be entertaining to watch, and that's what makes like that's a very good difference between, let's say, a funny video versus a funny person.
Of course.
Well, we really strayed way off topic now.
I mean, that's fine by me.
Yeah, definitely. Let's go back to the topic at hand, which, I mean, the next question, of course, which is, have you encountered other phylacteries or other? Oh, wait, no, you already answered this part. Have you encountered other phylacteries or like beings that are phylacteries at least?
Don't think so. I have encountered some possessed objects, some cursed objects as VTubers, but not another phylactery per se.
It must be interesting, like seeing how an object is possessed by a living thing, but it also might be hell, I suppose.
Who knows? Who knows what pains their existence brings?
That's true. There are just the thought of like not being able to move just kind of things me. I have like really mild claustrophobia, and just hearing that just kind of freaks me out a bit.
I don't know. I think I would be very comfortable inside of a coffin. I truly think that.
That being in a coffin, that makes that I suppose that does provide comfort, but like just be basically like how people describe sleep paralysis demons. Like you're aware of your surroundings, but you cannot move.
Really interesting.
I suppose that's just a fear how a lot of people, how a lot of beings have nowadays, huh?
Sure.
It does come up like fairly commonly nowadays.
I mean, what can you do when things you're afraid of are literal concepts? Not like your brain can prepare you to fight the economy.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. Preparing to fight the economy. For some reason, my head's just imagining like some Wall Street fuck, like with a sword and shield. We're going to
music starts playing.
Oh, to any viewers who's like amazing artists, can someone please draw that? I want to see that. Oh, preparing to fight the economy, but yeah, I suppose. Okay, this is a weird segue, but have you seen V for Vendetta?
Yes, of course. I have seen it and read the comic.
Oh, I've only watched read like some parts of the comic, but anyway, it's exactly like how V like says in one of his famous quotes, which is, "Behind this mask is not a man but a concept, and ideas are bulletproof." It's exactly like that, wherein we are afraid of concepts because we cannot hurt concepts, but they can hurt us. In a manner of speaking, of course. They not literally, of course.
Of course.
Like, okay, let's say, okay, this is gonna be a weird ass way, but the concept of loneliness, a person not being able to make contact with other beings, that's a concept, and that hurts.
Oh, of course.
Is there a concept that even though you're a necromancer, is there a concept that you probably fear?
Well, this is going to get a little bit heavy, but I have always been afraid of suicide. Afraid of death.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can welcome death. I am acquainted with death. But be in a position where my brain tells me, you have to kill yourself. That's the only way out.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been afraid of that. And I have experienced that before. I was in so much pain that my brain told me, you have to kill yourself. That's what you have to do. Of course, I didn't. The pain was so intense. They were like, yeah, just kill yourself. Do it.
I'm very sorry to hear that. There is just way too many people, I think, that has similar thoughts. It's just sad to say that there are some people wherein those ideas do take hold of them, and they do what the voices tell them to. But it is something that we as people need to watch out for in the people we interact with.
Yes, of course.
I to say the truth, I had something similar, but okay, this is gonna be a bit strange to say, especially after what you said. Is I have a very morbid view of things.
Mhm.
I do not I do not fear death itself. I fear a slow death. I fear
Oh,
feeling all the pains. But death itself, no matter, I don't fear it because the concept of death doesn't actually scare me. Because the way how Plato put it is that you have two options. One is emptiness, nothingness, and two is, of course, seeing is what everyone has been promising you, like what religions have been promising you. But whichever gets picked, your problems are done. And to me, that seemed appealing to an extent. I didn't feel like I want to kill myself, but I didn't feel like I want to protect myself from danger either. If you
I
get what I mean
understand
by
that.
that.
I understand. I understand. You have to say that reason I'm so afraid of being in that state again because I didn't know it had it in me. I didn't know that was a thing existing inside of me. I agree. I agree with what you said. Um, trying to alleviate the issues that plague you sometimes does sound.
Yes,
But
it's appealing. Yeah.
I have to say, many things that I have found comforting are things that people would say, "How can you ever even think of that?" But I am an atheist. I am an absolute atheist. I would sometimes even describe myself as an anti-theist. Well, I have several times called myself Satanist. That's because thought of an afterlife makes many people happy. Me, that idea is dangerous. Idea has been dangerous. Not forget of the attacks were done by religious people. Many different religions. I'm not going to point at one specific because they thought they were sending people the afterlife. Yeah. I was just saying that religion has been used as a means and a justification for many different acts of terror, attacks, wars, even. And we remove it from the equation. I'm not saying that people are going to stop fighting. I'm saying that they will have one reason less for fighting. Saying that the evil that religion has done to the world is far greater than any of the benefits it has provided us.
Yeah, I actually really agree to much of what you said. It's one of the reasons why I consider myself an existential agnostic, wherein I don't really believe nor disprove the existence of a god. But even if there was a god, I do not agree that we should worship him. Them, I suppose.
Exactly. Hmm?
Because
Yeah.
there is
I mean,
just
that's. Go ahead.
sorry, I'm trying to formulate my words. You go ahead first.
I was just going to say that's what Satanism it's all about. Satanism is about exposing the hypocrisy of religion. Satanists don't believe in Satan, the biblical figure of Satan. Satanists just believe in it. Satanists just believe in Satan as a symbol of being rebellious, fighting against oppression, thinking for yourself and not following the majority says is good. Of
Yes,
course, some people would interpret that as hedonistic. I'm not going to lie, there are some Satanists that do participate in hedonistic tendencies. I'm not one of them. But in any case, it's all about in your own judgment, being your own God.
yeah, definitely. Like, as a way of life, I completely agree with what a lot of Satanists work with. There are how Satanists function as a belief system, wherein it's not which is a counter to what a lot of people do, which is just doing what the most popular thing is. Gladly,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people nowadays are becoming more self-aware isn't the best word, but they are
Be
becoming
critical.
more. Yes, exactly. They're more like religiously critical, wherein they actually are like thinking with themselves about what they should believe in. Admittedly, a lot of people still choose religion because that's the only pathway they can take. But I do am happy that a lot of people um a lot of people aren't following blindly in a way that someone's thinking, which is why over the years there has been a big decrease in people going, let's say, to church. They do still practice like some things, like let's say Christmas, but that's more of a culture thing at this point.
Yeah, of course.
It's really just a matter of what you believe in is your right to choose, and not what other people believe in, basically.
Yes, yes.
Well, moving on to the next question before the creature in my room somehow attacks me again.
Mm-hmm. La
Do you
criatura.
do you deal with a lot of humans like in your home world or where you are right now? Because I really can't imagine a local village being open arms welcoming somebody with a skull on their head like 24/7.
Yeah, I don't deal with them much. Some people that visit every now and then, which I have come to call friends, of course. But the majority of the time, a lot of possibility provides. Don't have to go to town that often. When I do, I wear a disguise.
Okay, that makes sense. I suppose people would be a bit more freaked out by seeing your skull, literally seeing your skull.
Exactly, exactly.
Next question. We are very close to the end now. Did you encounter any issues when you were with functioning your body when you were going from a quadruped to a biped, supposedly? Or I suppose like going from a quadruped to not feeling anything for who knows how long to a biped.
Oh wow, yeah. The shift from being a quadruped, just being a skull, was shocking. Eventually, I was able to learn how to levitate, to manipulate things using telekinesis. But to be honest, it took a long time. I'm assuming it took a long time. Shift from being a floating skull, becoming actual humanoid maybe,
Mm-hmm.
was far easier. You have to understand that spellbooks are written for humans by humans usually, or
Oh
at least
yeah.
by human-like creatures. So the analogies used to describe the processes of levitation and telekinesis actually helped me adapting into a bipedal body. Was far easier than I thought. Was like I had those limbs all along. For being able to levitate and manipulate things with my mind for so long. Had the neural systems set up.
Mm-hmm.
Just had to adapt them to a different purpose, basically.
Okay, at least it wasn't like much of a trouble, because there are some people who, well, there are some people that do encounter issues, especially with a change in biology.
Of course, of course. I'm not saying it was perfect, but it wasn't as bad as I thought.
I suppose that's true. There are some biological stuff that could like mess you up, as a way of saying. But anyway, moving on to the final question.
Hmm?
Seeing as you are a necromancer, do you have a spell that can bring back people who are dead inside?
Well, I do. I do.
Oh, perfect. Would you kindly share us like some details of this spell?
Of course, of course. Now, to be able to cast that spell, you have to actually die first. How does that work? Well, you have to leave your body for a while
Mhm.
and be on the outside, looking in. Because you see, sometimes change inside of you is so minuscule every day, so gradual. You feel like you have been stuck in the same place for a long time. But actually, taking note of all of what you've done, taking into account all of what you've seen and done, and bring in that self-love that is required for you to start actually feeling alive again.
Well, I suppose that's a spell that some people want the liberty of being able to use, but even if they cannot use it, they can take notes of how it is performed and probably apply a part of it just to help themselves, I suppose. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. Exactly. It's all about changing your perspective, changing your point of view.
Okay. Well, that has been Burning Questions. How did you enjoy your time, Elchu?
Well, I had a lot of fun, I have to say. These are topics that I like discussing, and these are questions that I hadn't been able to answer for a long time, not because I didn't know how to, just because one had asked them. So that was really good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, this was really fun. I also enjoy discussing like every topic from philosophy to just how we live our lives. But yes, this has been a really fun time. I hope you had an amazing time, and I hope all you viewers enjoyed as much as I did. So to everyone in the stream, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Burning Questions. Please, if you want to see more of my content, please follow. If you want to see more of El Chu's content, check him out on Twitter. He makes remarkably good VTuber logos. That's what it is. Anyway, to everyone, hope you had a great time. Bye everyone.
Bye.